What's up, YouTube? It's the Dead Noob, and for this video I'm going to go ahead and do another versus, and this is going to be casuals versus pros. That's how we're going to go ahead and break this down, right? So let's go ahead and define a casual. So let's get some definitions out of the way. A casual player is an individual listed as playing about 6 to 8, maybe 10 on the extreme end, hours of gaming a week, as to where a pro or streamer will play about 10 to 12 hours a day. And they will be looking at completely different aspects. So let's go ahead and address 3 topics that we're going to cover right here. Now, topic 1 is goals and outcome. What do the casuals want out of it? What do the pros want out of it? So casuals will focus on fun, relaxation, a little bit of escape from reality. Winning is there, but it's not everything. It's not essential to them. Where pros and streamers treat the game like it's a craft or a career. They'll analyze mistakes, study metas, and practice with intent. They'll go out and get tertiary software to help them train in aiming. They'll study patch notes. They'll try to break every aspect of the game down to try to gain a competitive advantage. That's not to say that casuals can't be competitive. It's just it's not their primary focus. As to where a pro, the competitive aspect is their primary focus. Now, a streamer may have that competitive mindset, but it's really not there for them. They're more focused on the entertainment value. Does it create or generate likes or revenue for them based on the streaming platform such as Twitch or YouTube or maybe even Rumble? But as long as there's some kind of aspect that is entertaining and keeps viewers attached to them to where they can get ad revenue, that's their main or primary focus. And for the second point, we're going to go ahead and get into time commitment and skill development. Now, casual players are a little bit different than pros in this, that when casual players play, they have time. They don't create time to play the game. They just have free time to play the game. And as far as their skill development, it may or may not grow, typically slowly and more naturally. Pros will practice. They'll train like an athlete. They'll do reviews. They'll have scrims. They will hire coaches. Some of the pro teams have 2 or 3 coaches on their side. And they'll get into the mechanics and drills. Streamers are kind of in that wheelhouse, but they're the bridge between casuals and pros when it comes to time commitment and skill development. They're going to commit a whole lot of time to gaming, but their skill development may or may not go along the same line as a pro. As long as there's an entertainment value and they can get ad revenue off of it from their streams, then they'll go ahead and fall into that bracket. And lastly, the impact on the gaming ecosystem. Casual players represent the majority of the player base. They are influenced by monetization and the design of a game. Pros and streamers are influenced by visibility, trends, and meta shifts. Their gameplay can make or break a title's reputation. Well, allegedly. Developers often get pulled in 2 directions. Do they go ahead and service the casuals, or do they go ahead and service the pros/streamers? And you can see that play out live when you watch some of the streamers when they say, Timmy No Thumbs, or why is it always based for casuals? What happened to the pros? Or I want to be more competitive. And I want to get into a third party that I haven't mentioned yet here in a minute. Let's take a look at it from the developer's aspect. What do casual players want? Well, they want intuitive controls, they want forgiving mechanics, and they want a smooth gameplay. They prefer a quick pickup game, like if you went to the gym and wanted a quick basketball game, right? So NBA 2K, Call of Duty, Battlefield, any of those titles will have a quick jump in right now type of system. But they don't want to be punished if you make mistakes. Not the game, but if they make mistakes. They respond well to a clear UI, a little bit of an aim assist, a simplified system in the background, and generous progression, such as XP boosts on weekends, so on and so forth. As for the pros, they want mechanical mastery. They want high skill ceilings and systems that reward precision over just random gameplay. They prefer minimal hand-holding and maximum control, often push for reduced randomness. They want tighter hitboxes, but accurate hit registration. And they want a little bit deeper mechanics into the game. It's not just a 1-button push, aim, and shoot. They want 2 buttons, or maybe even 3. It all depends on the game, right? There's an internal debate at the developer level, the difference between simplicity and complexity. If it's too simple, pros say that it lacks depth and it's just shallow. But if you make it too complex, then casuals won't play it because the learning curve is just too steep for them to play 2 or 3 hours a week. So developers will have to struggle in making that game balanced between simplicity and complexity. It's really hard to do, but it has to be done. And here's how the balance philosophy starts to play out. Fun versus fairness. Well, the casual player, they're going to want fun and a lot of variety. They don't mind broken weapons or goofy builds. Sometimes they'll even prefer them. And they're less sensitive to micro imbalances and care more about the macro imbalances. Now, pros will demand a strict balance because tiny differences matter at higher levels. They'll exploit every mechanic they can. They'll force devs to patch and even complain consistently. Streamers are guilty of that too. They expect transparency in patch notes and competitive integrity. They don't want anyone else to get an advantage that they themselves can't obtain, and will complain if somebody does. And here's where the developer has to figure out where they're going to work with the casual player or the pro. Now, casuals want a little bit more of an overpowered weapon platform, specifically speaking, if it's a first-person shooter or maybe even an extraction shooter. They want an advantage over the AI. As to where pros, they want fairness and consistency. They want a mastery system. They want to be able to level correctly and get metas. That's really what they're going for. The balance between the two is being able to not only separate them, but make them come together in the same lobby, right? It's hard to do. Ranked play versus casual play. Pros want ranks and they want leaderboards. Casuals don't care. That's not their thing. PvE versus PvP values. What's more in the wheelhouse of the developer and what is it they're trying to push? And then competitive rule sets. Now, there used to be a third party out there in the world called Major League Gaming, and they were the balance because they were a tertiary company until Microsoft bought them out. Well, Activision, and then, Microsoft bought Activision. But they would set rules, guidelines, and parameters around what competitive gaming looked like. And then the developers of these games would either fall in line or they wouldn't. And the MLG would either play it or not. And then there was a money aspect to it. So you got to be careful because once money starts getting in there, that's when everything gets a little corrupt and funny. But we'll keep moving. Point 3 from the developer's aspect, right? The content cadence. A broad appeal versus competitive stability. Casual players want new maps, cosmetics, events, seasonal content. They care about novelty and social play. They're the financial backbone. Most developers know this. Pros, well, what they want is stability, predictable metas, and minimal disruption during tournaments. They prefer fewer but more meaningful updates. They need time to practice before major events. Now, the debate falls into the developer in the realm of how often they update. Well, casuals engage but destabilize the competitive scene. Pros want a more slow, deliberate update system, as long as the game's not broken. They'll be happy, but don't want to risk losing the majority audience. And that's the streamers, right? They want to make sure that their audience stays there. And they want to point out bugs too, because, let's be honest, clickbait. So the primary dichotomy between pro and casual is, where do the developers need to side? Well, if they alienate the casual, they lose the money. But if they alienate the pros, they lose the visibility on their games. It's kind of a hard ideology that they have to fall into. You need to keep the game relevant, patch it, and offer new content to keep casuals on board. But you also need to create stability, leaderboards, and even a competitive side to keep the pros and streamers involved. It's really kind of a hard thing to balance when you're looking at it from a developer's aspect. So don't get at these guys too hard. Now, for me, I would say get rid of the competitive nature out of the games completely. Not necessarily get rid of competitive gaming, but reinvent the wheel. We need to bring MLG back. If Activision were able to release that name and the IP associated, maybe some other company could pick it up and they could turn MLG back into the competitive side of gaming that it used to be. I remember watching MLG and even playing in MLG leagues a long time ago, back when it was Modern Warfare 3 and Black Ops 2. That was my thing. I liked playing at that competitive level, but that's years ago. I'm no longer that guy. I can't play at that level with kids. Let's be honest. That's what it is. I'm more of a casual gamer now, and I prefer to play casually. But what about you? Do you side with the competitive side or do you side with the casuals? To be real with you, I'm not going to say you need to pick one or the other because that's not fair. But if you want, you can leave your comment down below. You can like and share. Get everybody else involved in the debate too. Personally, if I had to throw my eggs into one basket, I'd have to throw it in the casual basket. And the reason I would is because they're the money pocket. That's where developers are going to go. They're going to go where the money's at. Streamers don't generate revenue for them, neither do pros. But the casuals do. A pro or a streamer may buy only 1 or 2 titles, as to where a casual is going to buy 5, 6, maybe even more. Gonna have to decide where the money's at. That's just me, right? All right. Well, that's going to do it for the Dead Noob on this one. Be good or be good at it.